Hey, what's up guys? Another knife review for you. Today I'm going to be talking about the Ladybug 3rd generation Hawkbill version. First, a little disclaimer, sort of, for this video. This knife is a limited run or sprint run, which means they don't make a whole lot of them. It's somewhat rare. I apologize in the future if you're watching this video and you just can't find it because it's discontinued. You know, a lot of different Spyderco models, they make these short little runs, and you know, they become highly collectible because they're hard to find and they become rare. This is one of those knives that's kind of on its way to becoming rare. The actual Ladybug itself, with the clip point blade, is quite common and will probably be a staple in the Spyderco line for a long time. But again, I'm talking specifically for this Hawkbill version of the knife. So first off, obviously you can see it's a very small knife, you know, in a tiny little box here. For anyone who's interested, the model number here is LBK S3HB. In case in the future, again, you want to do a search for that model number. And here it is. It's a tiny little knife. There's that devastating Hawkbill blade. This knife, even being extremely small as it is surprisingly a powerful cutter. And it is due to not only being extremely sharp, but having that fully serrated Hawkbill blade. And I'll talk about that a little bit later in this video. But first, let me give you some specifications or details here for the people who do care. Although you can see this in my hand, a lot of people like the actual measurements and stuff because you don't really know how big my hand is. I mean, obviously it just looks like a normal hand, but you know, your hand might be a lot smaller, might be a lot bigger, and so on. So first off, another little kudos I have to say to Spyderco. When I can find a website like Spyderco that's so thorough, and they give so much information on their product, and so specific in detail. I mean, they use 1/16 of an inch for their measurements. So just a little kind of a shout out to Spyderco for just being so detailed and again thorough. So these measurements come direct from Spyderco's website. Overall length on this is 4 5/16 of an inch. The blade is 1 7/8 inches long, and then closed position here it's 2 7/16 inches long. Okay, so yes, it's a very small knife. Extremely light. This thing literally disappears in your pocket. You know, don't. I'm sure it'd be fine if you threw it in the wash or something like that, but it can very easily be forgotten about in the pocket. This only weighs 0.6 ounces. Okay, so it's a hair over a half an ounce, which is extremely light. Basically, you have the weight of the blade here. You have these FRN handles with that cool grip they do on most of their knives, which I'll comment in just a second here, but there's no steel lining or anything on there. Pretty basic knife design overall. But blade here is VG10, which is nice, because how often do you get such a small little knife like this, a little keychain knife with such a high quality steel? You know, for the most part, if you get similar type knives, of course price is going to reflect the quality overall and the materials used as well. I mean, if you get a little $5 or $10 keychain knife and it doesn't have a high-end steel in it, well, look, you only paid $5 or $10. You know, in some cases you probably pay $2 or $3 for a little keychain knife. You know, a little dollar store knife or something. But this is definitely not a dollar store keychain knife. This is everything that that Spyderco represents, just in a smaller package. That's something you can't be confused with. Just because it's small does not mean it's cheap. And a lot of people will see that. You know, if you break this out to the average person, they're going to say, oh, you know, cheap little knife. Not the case. Definitely not the case. Let's talk a little bit about the handle. Like I said, let me show you nice and close here. I believe, you know, I forget the exact name. I think maybe it's called the Volcano Grip, or I'm not up on my my terms, but it is the newer grip texture here with those angled square pieces. You see a little Spyderco logo. On the larger knives, extremely effective in giving you a very good grip. On this smaller knife, just because of the scale, I have to say, you know, when I pull down like this with my thumb, it is extremely grippy. Pushing up, however, it kind of lacks that. Maybe because it's just such a small little area. You know, down the bottom it's a little fatter here. But overall, I have to say, it's not that bad. It is grippy, but it's not. Again, you don't get the same effect as, say, the Enduras or Delicas because of its small size. And here's the reverse. Same deal in the reverse. And you get the little Spyderco logo there. And we're in nice and close here. Let me show you the, there you go, Spyderco VG10. And on the reverse, this one happens to be made in Seiki City, Japan. Okay, which is nice. A lot of these little you know, for the most part across the board, little keychain knives, for the most part, you're going to find China on there. And they're not even going to tell you what kind of blade steel it is because it's not worth bragging about. But anyway. First thing I noticed when I got this knife is how it just melts in the hand. It is so ridiculously comfortable in the hand. You have these 3 cutouts. Obviously, you can see one sweep here, a second sweep, and then you have like kind of a half sweep here, which leads to the butt end of the knife. Now, if you look at my fingers here, try to get a good angle here, we can see the light. It just fits the human fingers in the hand so well. It just, oh my God, it's awesome. I know it sounds ridiculous how excited I get about a knife handle design, but you know, with a small knife like this, it's going to be very hard to get a really comfortable design and grip. And you know, I really should have got one of my cheap. You know what? Let me shut the camera off here, and let me get back to you because I have to get another cheap little keychain knife to compare this to because it's like night and day between the quality and the fit and finish and everything else. So hang on just a second here, and I'll connect the video clips. But I do have to get something else to compare this to, so I'll be right back. Alright guys, so I grabbed a couple of these from my my junk knife box. These are your run-of-the-mill common dollar store or gas station type keychain knives. Okay, now you can see they come in a variety of colors. For demonstration purposes, I'll use the black because that's the closest to the Spyderco here. But here's a let's see, this one happens to be Ridge Runner, which actually has a name brand. For the most part, when you buy these things, they're not going to have anything on there. You'd be lucky if it even says China on there. Let's see, the back of this, hey, what do you know? Stainless China. What kind of stainless? Your guess is as good as mine. But there you go, China, just like I said. Now, obviously, you have a different blade style here, but we're just going to go over the overall, you know, fit, finish, design, all that kind of stuff. First off, this plastic here, although I don't know what it is offhand, I can guarantee you it's not FRN. The feel is completely different. This has much more of a warm feeling to it. I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain what I mean by that, but this one just feels, I don't know, it's just regular plastic. And you know what, like my other videos, I'm not going to do it here, but I know that if I crank on down, you can see it bending already. If I crank on this, it'll snap in half, just like my other cheap knives did in that past video. The Spyderco, well, it's the FRN's bending together a little bit, but I mean, there's no way. You can see I'm shaking. I'm not kidding around. I'm seriously trying to bend this in half, and there's no way. I'm not going to be able to do it. And if you don't believe me, fork over the money, get one of these things, and try it yourself. This again, I don't want to break it just for the sake of breaking it, but I know I can break that in half. It's a cheap plastic. There's just no comparison. To the average eye, they're going to say, yeah, they're both plastic, but there is seriously a difference in an FRN plastic and just your run-of-the-mill, you know, Tupperware plastic. Not even Tupperware grade, I'm sure. But anyway, you guys get the point. Very similar design here, though. As you can see, they're both pinned. Okay, so there's no removable hardware or anything. You just have these pins on there, pin construction. So you're kind of stuck with, you know, what it is. They're both lockback designs. Okay, as you can see here. Now you can hear that Spyderco snap in with authority, even for such a tiny little knife. Alright, let's compare that with his Ridge Runner. Oh, not too bad. I can tell you that the locking bar is much more comfortable. It's a little thicker on the Spyderco. It's actually twice as thick. And you have that little Boyd dent in there as well, so it is more comfortable to use that than this. That is thin. It's actually pretty stiff. There's a pretty strong spring in there. But you know what? You would think with that nice strong lock bar, the blade would be fine, but there's blade play up and down. I don't know if you can hear that. But also a lot side to side. I mean, try to hold this really still so you can see this. A lot of blade play. I mean, all directions. Spyderco, nothing up and down. Try to hear this. Okay, side to side. The tiniest. It's like just enough room for a human hair. I mean, it does wiggle a tiny, tiny bit, but nothing like this. Okay, but what's most important again is up and down. That's your locking bar. Okay, so again, big difference in quality here and the fit. What else can we say here? I was talking about grip before. The grip on this didn't seem all that grippy until I grabbed this thing. Okay, this thing is very slick. It's smooth. You can see the difference in texturing here. Again, attention to detail. The cheapo, you just got this square design here. In fact, the squares are rounded, and they're all flush. They're all even with each other, and they're actually lower than this outside rim, so they're recessed a little. Again, on the Spyderco, you can see the detail there, and you see it most when I turn this sideways, so get another good view there. You can see how those are raised up, so when you're working against it, it just grips into the skin. So huge difference. Now this one is also partially serrated. Now technically these are both just plain old serrated blades. You know, any serrated blade is going to have that little run of straight edge towards the tip there. But let's compare these, okay, because this is a big distinction I want to make between these two knives. Okay, first let's look at the Spyderco Serrations. Alright, you can see there the edges, nice and crisp. As I turn it, it's going to be too hard to see here. I wanted to see that secondary bevel there, but you can see how perfectly cut they are. Very nice machine work. Let's look at the back end of it, the back side. Again, trying to get this to focus. Okay, nice and crisp. And I'll show you in a second here a cutting demo, which will obviously show the difference. But anyway, let's look at the cheap ones here. Now, right off the bat, you can see the burrs a little on the edge there. You can see it's not as a shallow cut either. It's more of a steep cut. It's not going to be as effective. And I swear I've never used this knife. I mean, you can see the burrs in between those little cuts, the little teeth. Well, let's look at the back end. Yeah, tons of burrs straight from the factory, wherever this was made. Let me skip right to the cutting demo. And quick little side note, I just watched a video from Gear Buyer's Guide, and he was talking about what people do. He was actually asking, you know, what do you do with your leftover MRE bags? And this is what I do. I use them for cut tests. Alright, first let's try that Spyderco here. And I do want to elaborate and talk about this Hawkbill style blade as well. But first, just cutting right through the bag, both layers here. Push right through, no problem. The piercing on this is just extremely nice. Okay, and then obviously tears through like there's no tomorrow. Okay. It's just no competition for this knife at all. Even this thick, like 1 or 2 mil military material, this bag, whatever this bag's made out of. But anyway, that's the Spyderco, as expected. Extremely sharp right out of the box. Even though this has been used, I haven't touched up this knife. In fact, I have a hard time touching up most serrations in general, but I'll talk about that in a minute. But let's try this this cheap knife. Now, the first thing I could say is that it is very pointy, so I'll give them that. Penetration is actually pretty good. It's not bad at all, because obviously it's very pointy. You can't help but, you know, pointy piece of metal will penetrate very easily. Let's try the slicing. Oh, not too bad. Well, it's getting caught up in the small serrations, these smaller teeth. Again, let's compare the difference between them. They are smaller teeth than the Spyderco small ones, so let's get another piece of plastic here. Alright, well, it's getting caught up on the serrations, on the very small teeth. It's sticking. Once I get past that, once I actually get into one of the larger teeth, cutting isn't that bad at all. Let's find another medium for cutting real quick. I think I have some of those plastic straps. Yeah, here we go. Alright, I have some of this these packaging straps left over. Hold on a second. Alright. much harder material to cut. Let's see how these do. Start with the Spyderco. No problem at all. Cuts right through it. Let's try that tip. Alright, need a little bit of pressure. You know, again, serrations, just how it is, but they are nice and sharp, and they are, as you can see, very effective. Let's try the other knife here. Now this does seem to be nice and sharp. It's just the serration pattern isn't as effective, that's all. Okay. Alright, there we go, finally. Here's the difference. Obviously the struggle with the straps here. Let's try the tip on this one. Ah. Okay, didn't even cut it all the way. You see, here's the difference. Get a nice hard abrasive material like this. There we go. Alright, swap back forth, or back to the Spyderco here for reference. There's the difference. Nowhere near as hard. Alright, so there's some cutting demo for you. Should save that to the end, but figure I might as well skip ahead a little bit. Even though this is pretty sharp, this is definitely sharper. Also, this is definitely going to hold its edge a lot longer because it has that VG10 stainless. And this, like I said, you know, your guess is as good as mine as to what kind of stainless they have on here. I would have to assume maybe a 420, possibly 440A, something along those lines. They might even use a 440C, but, you know, I don't know. It's like I said, it's whatever's going to be cheapest. They can't possibly put a really good steel in this and still sell them for like 25 cents each or whatever they do, you know, in bulk. But anyway, another advantage of having this Hawkbill blade, and this is what I wanted to discuss before, and I'm going to use one of these pieces as kind of a reference here. But when you go to cut material with this, okay, let me put this up right here. When you go to cut material with a Hawkbill blade, as you're sliding past, it's gathering material because of this curve, okay? So as I'm cutting, it's going deeper and deeper into the blade, okay, as opposed to a straight blade or even a curved blade. When you're cutting, the blade's actually pushing the material away a little bit, okay, as you come across. There's nothing that's really keeping constant pressure except for your, you know, physical hand moving down. Again, with the Hawkbill, it can't help but go deeper into the belly of that blade, okay? And again, it's just gathering all the material and slicing through it. So just by design, it doesn't matter what knives you're comparing, a Hawkbill will always perform just a little bit better, just by design. Also with that tip, you do have, you still have the penetration factor. Like I said, a lot of people don't realize that it seems almost, let me cut a piece off here. It seems almost like you would lack penetration because this is nice and pointy, almost like a little, you know, a little nail or something. Penetrates real easy, just straight in. Okay, penetration is not an issue because it's so acute and sharp. And hold it straight. Okay, but what we don't realize is that if you angle your knife back just a little bit, you still have a nice acute edge, or excuse me, a nice acute point on this, and penetration still isn't a problem. Okay, it's just a matter of how you're angling your knife, but it still will penetrate very easily. Okay, and then obviously once you get to the slicing, it's a breeze. But anyway, just wanted to explain a little bit on that Hawkbill style blade. I am definitely a fan of Hawkbill knives for utility work as well as for a defensive blade. Perhaps in the future I'll talk a little bit about knife defense and stuff like that because there is a big interest in it. You know, but I don't like to generally promote knife defense, you know, because there's a lot of people who are going to take it the wrong way, and of course when you put information like that out there, you know, the good guys as well as the bad guys get to hear it. So, you know, even though it will benefit some of the good people out there, I don't really want to teach criminals how to, you know, better do their job. if you know what I'm talking about. But anyway, just a direct comparison there. There is no comparison. Although this is a definitely, you know, for a little beater knife. Again, for the price, maybe $1 or $2. It's not horrible, but it definitely has its flaws. It's weak. It will dull. When it dulls, good luck ever sharpening it again. It's just not going to happen, especially with those serrations. This, however, will last a very long time. You can touch up the serrations with the diamond stone, you know, like the Spyderco Sharp Maker. Those stones, you can buy just a set of the stones if you wanted to. If you're not interested in spending the money for the whole system itself, you can buy just the stones and use them freehand. But that will touch up this blade. Again, it will hold an edge for a very long time. That VG10 is a great steel. A lot of you guys know that. I'm sure you have personal experience with it. And again, the Hawkbill style blade is just a nasty cutter. I mean, it just eats up anything you throw at it. And you know what? For utility purposes, this tiny little blade, like what I say this was, just under 2 inches, 1 7/8 inches long. This performed all the daily tasks that I need. Okay, sometimes I'm guilty of carrying bigger knives. In fact, today when I was outside, I was doing some gardening stuff, and I had my Rat 1 here because this has kind of become one of my beater knives. But you know, this knife right here does almost all the same jobs that you can do with that knife. You know, for the most part, for your everyday, you know, opening packages and maybe cutting twine, you know, cardboard, whatever. You don't need a huge blade. The everyday chores that we do. By the way, there's a little comparison in size between the two, since I have it out. We'll get these in frame here. I'm trying to line up the bottoms. There we go. So you can see how tiny it is compared to that Rat 1 folder, which isn't a monster either. That's only got, what, like a 3-inch blade, 3 1/4 inch, something like that. So, again, just a little reference there for size. But my point that I'm trying to get to is that you don't need a monster blade for utility work. In fact, a small blade comes in handy quite a bit during the day. Definitely a very, very neat knife. Very cool for the collections, although it is a workhorse. You know, don't be afraid to use it. I know a lot of you guys, you know, you buy your limited Spyderco knives, and all of a sudden, because they are collectibles, you don't want to use them. They become safe queens. This isn't extremely expensive. Talk about price a little bit. Retail price is $44.95. Again, don't expect to pay retail. Doing some research, I found these anywhere from $23 to $30. Hopefully they're in stock some places, so you guys can obviously pick them up. But you know, for $25 average price, it's definitely a really cool knife. Another issue you might be thinking about is because of its size, it's easy to manipulate, to open and close. It's not hard at all. That big Spyderco hole is a great help in opening this. As you can see here, not very hard at all to open and close. You can even do it in a reverse grip using your ring finger here. Get a good grip on it, put your ring finger in there, and you can open that up as well. Try to do it a little better for you. Let's see here. There we go. But yeah, it's real easy to manipulate. Obviously, as you can see here, one-hand opening is not hard at all. What I do is just to press the lock with my thumb, put my pointer finger in there just to move the blade off the lock, reposition the hand, and then close it. And obviously, you can use two hands. It's even faster with two hands, you know. But there it is. You also have a lanyard hole here. And a good little thing is to pop one of these on here. It doesn't come with it, but if you want to put it on your keys, it's good to have this this little flexible kind of you know, ball keychain thing. So, in fact, it wouldn't hurt if you bought one of these at the store for $1 or $2, stole this ball keychain for your Spyderco, threw that in your tackle box or junk drawer or wherever, so you always have a little blade somewhere, and then pop one of these on there. And you know, it would make an excellent keychain knife. It would make a great companion to, say, a larger Spyderco or a larger folder that maybe you carry every day. And it's certainly sheeple friendly. It doesn't really matter how menacing the blade looks. If it's small, people just they don't really care. You know, if you have a large blade, you know, even something with 3.5 inches or 3 1/4 inches like this, you know, sometimes people, I don't know, they get a little weary with stuff like that. Even though that I personally think that the Hawkbill in serrated pattern like that is a lot more menacing looking and a lot scarier. I think if you asked the average person which one would scare you more, they would probably say this large knife, just simply due to the fact that it's large. You know, so I would say, generally speaking, it's probably sheeple friendly. Most people aren't going to even know you have it in your hand until after you cut something. You know, they're going to hear a little click, and all of a sudden something's cut wide open. There you go. Hey, what the heck was that? There you go. That was my little Spyderco. But anyway, there it is, the Spyderco Ladybug and the Hawkbill blade. Again, I hope you guys can find these out there. They are becoming harder and harder to find. But if you do find one, I think you'll be extremely happy with it. It's a great, great little knife. So, hope you guys enjoyed the review. And as always, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.